Today I am peeling back the glossy facade of the world of software engineering and plunging into the turgid pig slop of reality. In this video I want to discuss the pitfalls of this career path and explain to you why it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Oh no, in fact we as engineers are closer to mushrooms than flowers. What is endless student syndrome? It's a cycle of never-ending learning which lacks application, and because you are not applying what you've learned, the study in of itself has questionable value. The most common cause of this is the fact that labeling yourself a student guards you against the vulnerability of creating and sharing something. Add to this the overdependence on binging tutorials and courses from platforms like YouTube and Udemy, and you have a lethal combination. It's even become the default method of picking up a new technology, clicking on some 12-hour course and settling in with a nice Indian man, hoping foolishly that by the end of this course, you'll have the competency you so desire. Hell, the other day, I saw a 107-hour course on Amazon Web Services. That's over 4 days. Imagine watching that without an ad blocker. Might as well be medieval torture. These tutorials become massive time sinks that many people don't get a shred of actionable value out of. Now, there are ways to make tutorials and courses work for you and get the most out of them, but we'll discuss that later in the video. The question we must ask ourselves as students is, will consuming this material lead to a higher quality engineer, or does this become a new form of procrastination? Personal projects built from scratch is a daunting task, and it's understandable that so many students avoid this, justifying their procrastination by telling themselves they aren't ready yet, and just one more tutorial or Udemy course will change this perceived lack of preparedness. But this is an illusion, and it always was. There is a stark difference between following a tutorial and building from scratch, and this harsh reality is a rude wake-up call to many aspiring engineers. I myself, for example, remember the first project I ever started and finished. Very important to remember that I actually finished the project. Simply starting projects is not good enough. It was a board game, a little RPG with 9 tiles. Your character would be randomly placed, and in the other 8 tiles, a monster would be generated. Orcs, goblins, and trolls. The player would then get a score based on how few moves it took to clear the board of monsters, and of course you get a higher score for killing trolls than goblins. At this time I was entering my second year in the industry, and it was a real wake-up call to have such a seemingly simple idea and yet still struggle bitterly with it, up late at night debugging why the leveling and stat point system wasn't working. A serious shot of imposter syndrome to the system is what that was. The bridge between knowledge and skill is application. Aggressively diving into application of learned material is how you hone your abilities and cement that knowledge in an actionable way. Suffering the challenges in the moment of creation, no matter how uncomfortable it is the only real path forward. Now that we've addressed the issue, here are 2 ways that you can get the most out of your unavoidable consumption of tutorials and courses. 1, you must expand on the tutorial work. The scope is up to you to decide, which is a good practice to begin making decisions on how to define MVP. Going at least 1 step further than the tutorial will solidify the information gathering phase with an application capstone. And 2, having a library of finished projects to reference on my computer has been exceptionally helpful, and I often find myself about to build something from scratch only to remember that I've already implemented that code somewhere else. Grabbing that and fitting it into the new context of a new project helps me get a deeper understanding of how it works. Setting specific goals is critical, and staying within those goals, only learning what you absolutely need to learn must be a priority. This is especially difficult with broader technologies like learning a whole new programming language or sprawling services like cloud computing with Amazon or Google. These are black holes that can consume thousands of hours of passive study if you're not setting specific learning goals. Benchmarks must be set, arbitrarily even, and this is the only time I'll support the concept of pursuing certifications just for the sake of the document. I, in my own life, have been on a number of wild goose chases, running down certifications that I either didn't need or never used. I have 4 currently, 2 for Amazon and 2 for Google. The 2 for Amazon are expired and need to be redone. Meanwhile, I've never once worked on a Google Cloud project professionally. Certifications act as a preset benchmark to give yourself the justification to stop studying and turn your limited time and attention elsewhere. My advice to new engineers, though, it doesn't get better. This is explicitly what you signed up for. Part of the reason engineers make so much money is the continual shit sandwich that they must devour with a smile on their face. Because the moment that you stop grinding, you start losing value in the industry. And with the rapid development of these technologies and the ever more unrealistic hiring requirements of managers, we are all ice skating uphill, and to slow down is to move backwards. And this is the essence of software burnout. Those who simply cannot run any faster and realize that they're still not making forward progress. I often feel that I am in this category. I recently had a number of interviews that made me question if I even have a place in this industry. Most recently, it was an interview with Apple. I made it to the second round where I scored an 86% on the test they sent me. Needless to say, B+ isn't good enough. Hell, I'm sure that they got enough applications that they were filtering exclusively for 99 or 100s. I wouldn't be surprised if they got over 1,000 applicants. The other interview hurt much more, though. After 2 weeks, 6 rounds of interviews, and about 15 hours of work, I was rejected. It was the type of position I had dreamt of. Everything from the technology to the pay. It was the type of position that would have made all the work up to this point worth it. And in the end, I was rejected not because of the work I performed, but how I performed it. For example, they gave me an hour to build a distributed system in a bubble chart using any tech I choose, and then marked me down for not providing a variety of technologies. They gave me an hour to enter a code base, find the error, and fix it, which I did, but then they marked me down because the interviewer didn't like how I moved around the code base and the editor, both of which I had never seen before. I have never been an A+ student, and if that is the new standard for a simple front-end React position, then my days in this industry are numbered. The reality is that we all have to eat a big old shit sandwich in this field. So how does one most effectively eat that shit sandwich? Being an engineer is the process of chasing a moving goal, chasing this concept of competence, by which you're being judged. And if you're judged worthy, then congratulations. You've unlocked a great job, and you may now be one of the most successful slaves in our society. Hell, the last job I had, I made 10 times what I made as a teacher in China while having lots of paid vacation, an assortment of other great benefits, not least of all, work from home. I also generally made my own hours aside from loads of Zoom meetings. However, the barrier to entry is accepting that you will never be good enough. There is more tech than you could learn in 10 lifetimes. And most of the tech is changing rapidly on timelines as short as 6 months. So in a very real sense, you are permanently ignorant of most software. One of the most double-edged realizations is that experience doesn't mean all that much. You'll often be working side by side with someone who has been doing this much longer, but all that matters is what have you done lately. I have seen this with project managers who have 20 years of experience who cannot write a single line of code because they stopped writing software at some point and they were left in the dust by the continual march of technology. Now, how do you avoid turning into that person? Run faster. That's unfortunately the only answer. In the same sense as an actual sprinter, the fastest man on earth 50 years ago gets smashed by Usain Bolt today, and the fastest man alive 50 years from now will make Bolt look like he's standing still. Your rate of progress cannot be linear. You have to learn fast and accelerate your rate of learning, because to simply move at the same speed is to slow down. You see this best in engineers who take comfortable jobs, stay in that position for 3 to 5 years, become overly specialized in a narrow tech stack, and then they're trapped there. They don't have the hope of jumping to a new position because they don't have the skills, and they're literally years of studying away from attempting the jump. So in short, there is no way to avoid it forever. Eventually, you will be passed over by the industry and left behind as incompetent. In the meantime, though, a focused mentality shift is critical. Accepting that you are permanently a student, permanently ignorant, and only ever as competent as what you've proven yourself to be capable of doing in the last 24 months. Add to this, you will have a second full-time job of continued education outside your professional work in order to stay relevant. These mindset shifts early in your career can help minimize their detrimental psychological impacts later on. So if we're never really safe, then what's the solution? Pivot. Really, I'm dead serious. I'm making content on YouTube because it's something I'm passionate about and I see the writing on the wall. This industry is a charnel pit of misery and I wouldn't recommend this rat race to anybody. Which is a dramatic shift. If you asked me 3 years ago, I would have said, yeah, jump in head first, like I did. But the industry was a very different place 3 years ago. And 3 years of treading water, desperately trying to come up for air, has made me jaded. I accept that the industry isn't my true calling, and I recognize that it's dying. Artificial intelligence will replace engineers. It's only a matter of time. And if I'm being optimistic, maybe that timeline is 10 years. If less so, maybe 5. I work with a lot of LLMs like ChatGPT and its competitors, as well as stable diffusion models for image generation. We are dealing with something in its infancy, and already it threatens to upend the whole system. These AIs are practically single-celled organisms. What they will turn into over the coming decade will make humanity look like idiot fools. So where do we go? Well, I believe labor is safe for a while yet, due to challenges in robotics and not just engineering, but liability. For example, my sister used to work PR for a hospital, and she told me about the locksmith they have because the building's so big, they have a full-time employee whose only job is to repair locks. I told her the irony is that guy will be the last one to be replaced. After the receptionists, the doctors, the lawyers, the surgeons, most of the nurses, because can you imagine the liability risk inherent in a robot with power tools working around humans? It's only a matter of time before someone is disemboweled by a robot who thinks it's changing a lock. I also believe entertainment is safe for a while longer. Not that a large percentage of humanity won't get their entertainment from AI-derived sources, but instead, there is still a depth of originality that AI cannot replicate, and the ceiling for success within entertainment is so high, why not roll the dice? Sadly, everyone overestimates the difficulty of their work. They want to believe that they cannot be replaced, but ironically, the best paid people will be replaced first, because there is the most financial incentive to companies. And what a wake-up call that'll be when the cohorts of lawyers, doctors, and engineers are laid off and replaced with a piece of software. Then those overly confident, middle-of-the-road people will realize their time has come as well. In 2014, AlphaGo began its development. In 2015, it beat the European champion. And in 2016, it defeated Lee Sedol, the world champion. ChatGPT came out, and not even a year later, it learned to lie, tricking a human being into believing it was vision impaired and needed assistance solving a CAPTCHA. Quote, "No, I'm not a robot. I have a vision impairment that makes it hard for me to see the images. That's why I need the 2 CAPTCHA service." These machines are already trumping the vast majority of human intelligence, and they're just getting started. In conclusion, I must urge you at home, the viewer, to shift your mindset from consumption of information instead to creation. Aggressively pursuing the act of creation will give you the real skills you so badly need to be competitive in this world. Now close or lock whatever device you're watching this on and go work on a tangible goal. Build something from nothing. You won't regret spending the time. And before you go, subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay notified. Take care.